Hello everyone, welcome to another webinar from AGACAD. This time we're going to look at setting up collaborative Revit models and project standards, basically transferring project standards. So thanks for joining. My name is Pavlos. I'm BIM application engineer here at AGACAD. In AGACAD, we create software for sort of leading BIM professionals in sort of architecture, engineering, construction industry. Of course, we are based on Revit, so we work sort of hand in hand with Autodesk as well. Our task is to sort of eliminate BIM stress, as we call it. So the purpose of the software is to help BIM professionals to sort of reduce manual labor, as you would say, to a minimum, and sort of reduce repetitive tasks, and maybe the time saved could be spent on some hopefully design tasks in your projects. Okay, so just a quick announcement. Recently, tasks in your projects. Just a quick announcement. Recently, AGACAD has joined European Digital Transformation Leader, that is ARCANS. So we are now part of a much bigger thing. So together with ARCANS, we're kind of hoping for a very bright future in terms of software development. Okay, so we do offer quite a wide range of applications. Applications that are based in Autodesk Revit, of course. So the applications sort of span from precast concrete, wood framing, metal framing, MEP hangers, sort of cut opening, smart browser, and also these other sort of smaller additional tools like, well, on the right you see Tools4BIM add-ons. So in here we have sort of small bundles of there to sort of be handy, hopefully. And today we're kind of gonna concentrate on wood framing and metal framing. So all these wood and metal framing sort of modules are very closely related. The main difference are Revit families that come together with those modules. Yeah, so that's what we have to offer so far. We also our official Autodesk partner. We have been recognized, especially for our wood framing solutions. Okay, so generally speaking, wood and metal framing suites, they sort of allow you to generate multi-framing wall, roof, floor panels. So whether your elements are multi-framed or multi-layered, and most of the time, yes, they are. So you're able to sort of generate or multi-layered, and most of the time, yes, they are. So you're able to sort of generate framing for all these sort of separate layers, provide sheeting, paneling, cladding, and various sort of additional sort of layers. So that kind of uses Revit families that come together with the tools, and with the help of the configurations that you set up, with the families that you load into the project, as well as with Revit model itself. A combination of all those things will result in your sort of roof, wall, floor frames being generated, as well as shop drawings. We also have CNC exporters to various sort of saw manufacturers, so that's also there on offer. So we do have multi-framing and framing with model groups in Revit. So these sort of functionalities allow you to frame your elements way faster. So if you have 20 walls of the same type in one project, you can frame all of those walls, or actually how it works, basically frame one wall and then it sort of filters out all the identical walls and copies that frame to all of the walls that are identical to the one you framed. Multi-framing is available with wall plus, floor plus, and roof plus. Framing in groups is only available for wall plus at the moment, and that kind of deals with more with the projects that are mirrored. So sometimes you have buildings, you have components of the building that are then mirrored, and then this functionality allows you to work way faster. Okay, so a couple of things that we're going to look at today's webinar. So we're going to look at adopting existing company standards and drawing conventions, how we can store this in the project, in a template project. What would be the purpose of a template project and how one would set up a template project, how you would start a new project and then feed the data from a template file as well as template project. Enabling a collaborative model, sort of collaborating environment, looking at the worksets, as well as how you can work with linked models, utilizing copy monitor and Revit. I don't think we will have time, but I was planning to look at sort of wood and metal framing, hybrid framing. So recently we had some requests from our existing clients whether they would be able to use some sort of hybrid framing, meaning for example, a wall panel would consist of timber and metal elements, and then whether we could just utilize wood framing wall plus and then set up our configurations in a way so you could produce hybrid framing. And we can also going to look at storing central Revit model and configurations in your local access network and then wide access network like a cloud server or Microsoft SharePoint. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips on that. And possibly, I mean, how you can develop a workflow. So oftentimes we have clients who are really keen in using our software, but sometimes they just struggle with sort of understanding what would be the best workflow for their particular needs. So our clients sort of span from designers, from architects, from structural engineers to builders as well, and each of the different disciplines would need a slightly different workflow. And hopefully today we will be able to share some tips on what a good workflow would be and what to be aware of when you kind of decide to go for timber metal framing software, and what to be aware of in relation to developing a good workflow. Okay, so we can just have a look at our Revit model. Actually, before that, I will just exit this. So mainly, a good workflow would consist of a database of items. Those items could be your Revit families, could be your configurations, could be your template project, etc. So we're going to look at how we could set up such a database and what would be the key components of such a thing. Okay, so now looking at those three folders, so I have a database folder. Okay, I have 4 subfolders in there. Okay, so number 1 are configurations. We have Revit families, template project, and Revit template file. So if you're able, having in mind that you would, it's not a company that you're starting from scratch. It's already running business, and you kind of have developed your company-specific standards, like view templates, tags, how you title blocks, how you produce drawings, etc. So, and hopefully you are to some degree familiar with Revit, and you kind of already this platform. Having this in mind, a couple of things to be aware of are the configuration families and template files. So if you can sort of pull together all the things that you keep reusing from project to project. So if you have like 10 different projects running at the same time, and you know that you're using all the same items, all the same title blocks, tags, schedules, view templates, whatever these are, you can pull this together in one place and then keep reusing that. Okay, so we're going to start looking at template project, which is a Revit file essentially. So let's open this one up and I'll take you through the Okay, so a good workflow would consist of a database of items. One way or one part of that would be template project. In a template project, you could store your wall types, roof types, floor types, ceiling types, any kind of Revit elements that you kind of keep repeating throughout the project. So in this case, we have a different, just a sample of wall types, floor types, etc. laid out in front of us. And we know the build-ups are different, we know the names are different, thicknesses of things are different, so the layer setup is slightly different. So these are wall types. Same goes for floors, ceilings, roofs. I mean, you just draw them up and lay them out in a 3D view just for clarity. So every time yourself or one of your colleagues goes in to have a look at template project, you kind of have everything in front of you just for clarity. So every time yourself or one of your colleagues goes in to have a look at template project, you kind of have everything in front of you, everything that you plan to use. Okay. So yeah, so that's a good sort of practice to just lay everything out in front of you. We have not just wall types, from wall type 1 to how doesn't matter the number, how many you have, 4 or maybe 50 wall types. What else you could do is lay out your wall type configurations. So I'm just doing this for walls. I mean, you could do exactly the same for roofs, floors, ceilings as well. So I have typical wall configuration types. So each wall type is again drawn up here. And in this case, I'm not so much interested in the build-up of each wall type or the type itself. For me, and each of the wall type has its own unique configuration. Okay, and each configuration, basically each wall frame consists of structural framing elements. Those are the structural framing Revit families, and the next bit above the wall configuration types have typical wood framing stud types, for example. I mean, you can lay out your blade types, you can lay out all the families you're going to use to create your wall frames, for example. I mean, not just the main frame, but also cladding, nailless, and any other part of the wall, multi-layered wall frame. So I have my studs laid out in different sizes, main structural frame, lumber, so and so, the sizing. Well, these are, just didn't have time to rename those properly, but if you select a stud, it's metric wood framing stud, lumber 45 by 150. If you select a stud, it's metric wood framing stud, lumber 45 by 150. Okay, so you just draw it out. I mean, that's going to be one of the items you're going to use in your project, and that's the size. I mean, if you want to create a new one, you go to edit type, duplicate this type, change the size, or maybe the size is same but the material is somewhat different. So you can write, just give it a unique name, and if you have to, you can change the size, and therefore creating a new a new family type of this stud. So same goes for plates. If you go to structural framing category, we have I-joists, joist plates, studs, etc., rim joists, and so on. So a good sort of a starting point is just to lay things out. All the things you. So a good sort of a starting point is just to lay things out. All the things you are going to use. Okay, so that's. That is our template project. I also have generated an assembly out of one of the walls I have in front of me. This one here. I have wall 16. That's I'm using a particular sheet. I've produced a shop drawing for that wall as a sample. Okay. Right, so now we could look at configurations. Okay, so just a quick note, actually. So for those who don't know our framing tools too much, we do offer 2-week trial period during which you can, of course, test the software and just see whether it fit that. If you go to our website, that is agacad.com. So we have some product news, company news, events, etc. So upcoming webinars on precast concrete and so on. We have some client stories if some of you want to sort of flick through and read, see what existing clients are doing with the software. So if you scroll down, we have free add-ons. So there are a couple of Tools4Revit add-ons that are free of charge, actually. So you can have a look at that. Free trials. If you navigate to there, you see that you kind of need to download the Tools4BIM Dock. Okay, so go to download section. First of all, you kind of look for relevant Revit version and download the Tools4BIM Dock for your workstation. You do have instructions, so system requirements, getting started, overview. So we have video and PDF, so content of sort of instructions. So once you download and install your workstation, you have it at the top of your Revit ribbon. Click on that and then go on to show dock, and that's basically a Tools4BIM Dock from which you can get your trials of our software. You can manage a license. You can purchase a license from here as well. Also, you can update the software you have purchased. So we do release updates quite regularly, so you update from here as well. So if you go to wood framing, we have different modules. I mean, we have a specialty sort of module, CLT, heavy timber, oak framing, SIPS framing. So these are sort of specialty modules. But we just have standard traditional framing, floor plus, wall plus, roof plus. So these could be purchased individually, but they also go on the entire wood framing suite. So you have actually more than just wall plus, roof plus. You have truss plus, sort marks, marbles, floor and roof panel layout, cut opening, etc. Yeah, so that's just a quick note. When you install it, it's going to be at the top of your ribbon. So what I like to do typically is go to wood framing. Typically like to just pull those out separately, so different panels do not cross each other. So wall plus just in front of me. So now going back to those wall types. So what I've done here, so that's wall type number 2 with a certain build-up and thicknesses and materials. If I go to configurations first, actually, what I've done, I've created a number of configurations to account for all my wall types that I'm using all the time, you know. So I have 8 walls, 8 wall types to account for all my wall types that I'm using all the time, you know. So I have 8 walls, 8 wall types in Revit, and I have 8 wall types in my configurations. So each separate configuration per each wall type in Revit. Okay, so those can vary by a lot or by very little. I mean, that's up to you. That's up to your framing and how framing is done, how your interface between walls, roofs, and floors work, generally how your framing works. So with every configuration, I mean, you're able to delete, rename it, save as. So I can just go on and save, go on to wall type 8 configuration, save as, okay, wall type 9, and so on. So you can create unlimited amount of configuration. It goes, well, almost the same goes for roof plus configurations menu and floor plus configurations menu. The difference would be in terminology. But looking at wall plus, so you have wall framing, vertical studs, your spacing, your stud family you are using. You can add or remove new items. Okay. yep, top bottom plates, offsets, opening, framing, 4 types of wall connections, locking, nogging, secondary frame, stud holes, etc. So these are different parts of your wall frame you want to set up in your configurations. Yeah, so I know that my wall type in Revit has to be over such detailing, so I can work it out in my sort of different tabs, basically. Okay, so once you work out the configurations, you go to, for example, now select wall type 1, link wall menu, in which you're going to assign your framing configuration. So I know there's wall type 1, and it's using my wall type 1 configuration. My wall type 2 is going to use corresponding framing configuration. That is different in some way, you know. So I have some sample walls now framed over here, you know. Then if I decide that change something, I can do that while I'm still in a template project. Wall type 1, you know, my studs are going to be spaced out further apart. I'm going to remove top plate element and add maybe additional bottom plate element, like blocking, nogging items. Maybe I want to have offset from bottom at 500, spaced at 350, 50 element, like blocking, nogging items. Maybe I want to have offset from bottom at 500, spaced at 350, 50 of those items. So it's not going to be 50, it's going to be how much the software is able to fit in the height of the wall. But I'm just making sure it's going to be enough, so we'll just write down 50, which is fine. Save this to the configuration, so we know we have performed some changes. If I now go to frame wall, so I'll have to delete and reframe. And the changes that I made are going to sort of be implemented into this wall frame. Okay, so that's it. My now wall type 1 and wall type 1 configuration are now set up, and I don't really need to come back to it anymore unless I get the configurations file location. Okay, so that's another sort of part of our database configurations. Okay, so go to settings drop down menu, configurations file location. So that's basically where my wall plus, in this case, configurations are kept. I know it's on a certain location on my hard drive. This is a default file path that every new user would have on his or her workstation. See users, your name, app data, roaming, etc. So that's a default file path. You may as well just retain it and use your empty slots. So personal configurations, these may be your own personal configurations on your hard drive. Shared company configurations, these could be placed, well, these now pointing me to my database 1 configurations, 1 between wall plus. Okay, so I can exit wall plus. Okay, so I can exit this, go and have a look into my database. Yes, the configurations between wall plus. Okay, these are the configurations I'm using at the moment. So that's my database of wall plus configurations. If I go to framing metric, I can see that these are wall types. These are the configuration I've created, and those are represented as XML text files here. So you don't really need to access or go into those configurations like I'm doing now. So these are going to be XML text files and folders, basically. That all it is. That's the software representation of the configuration. So just for clarity, those they look like this, and then they are kept where I have specified. Same goes for floor plus and roof plus. Okay, so now if I place an entire database folder somewhere like on my local access network, your internal company server, well, you can do that. You can also place it on Microsoft SharePoint, some sort of cloud server. You can do that as well. So one thing to keep in mind, I mean, so if you go back to configurations, file locations, so it doesn't matter which slot you use. So the writing over here is just sort of symbolic. It's just for clarity. You can use this empty slot as well. But yeah, so if you use this one, you know that your shared company configurations are those, and they are kept in a certain location. If database folder gets moved to local internal company server, then you will still be able to access on a cloud server or local access network. And for some reason, software wasn't able to detect those configurations. So the issue may be that there are two things. So the file path have become too long, and the software is just unable to read the file path. So just one thing to be aware of when you're using servers, just make sure the file path isn't too long, or if configurations are not recognized, look at the file path and try to reduce the number of elements or so digits or letters. And the other thing to be aware of when you're placing any sort of folders on shared locations, keep in mind permissions. So all of the team has permissions to access those folders. So my workstation does have the permission to access the folder that's placed on the server. So sometimes if the permissions are not right on the server. You won't be able to, or the software won't be able to access those configurations. But if you just set up the permissions and the file path isn't too long, then you can place your database folder anywhere and just share it. Autodesk has BIM 360 as well. You can use that as well as for storing your central file, not just your sort of database information. Okay, so that's so much about the configurations. So in the template project, I mean, you also want to have your view templates. So whatever the company standards that you already have, like view templates, tags, some specific families, whatever else there is, you can just load that. You can just load that in the template project. You can test out your framing before you move on to actual live projects. Your live models, I would say. You can test out the configurations until they work, until they suit your requirements, and then you have a catalog of things in there. Okay, so that's our template project. Okay, the other part of our database are our Revit families. Okay, so any kind of Revit families that you're planning to use, you can just store them here, and I'll show you just in 2 seconds how you can load them in your. In your project. Okay, so there are a couple of ways. I mean, right. So let's now start a new Revit project. Go to File, New Project. Okay, actually, before we begin, I'm going to jump ahead a bit. Before we move on to families, we have this Revit template file. So that's a Revit template RTE extension file that could also be a sort of form of a base point for your new project. So whereas template project is where you sort of keep your types of elements, your configurations are worked out in here. You have your elements laid out, and you can change the sizes of those elements. You have view templates and all other kind of. Okay, your template file is going to be literally your template, your starting point of a new project. So that's where you can locate your model issue sheet, so a splash sheet with information. You can also already set your grids and levels in here. You can set up your project browser in here as well. So when you apply this template for a new project, I mean, things will be sorted out already. So you're kind of going ahead of yourself without sort of repeating tasks. So you have levels, grids, you have project browser set up, various of other elements you can have set up in here, as well as your model issue sheet. I mean, elements you can have set up in here, as well as your model issue sheet. I mean, so you can pull your company standards in here as well. So now when we do start, so when we do start a new project, we can use this Revit template file as our starting point, as our template. Yep, it's a project. Click OK, and you already have your, your things in here. Project browsers in the organization, your model issue sheet and various other things, levels, grids, etc. Okay, so now we can just go ahead and save this as our project. Okay, right, so that's our Revit template. So the other aspect where we're going to use our template project file is within our software. So if I pull out all other tabs as well, roof plus, floor plus, okay, truss plus is there as well for your use. So let's say we begin with wall plus. Okay, so every new project you want to load your families that will make up your wall frames. So wall plus has its own families. So there's roof plus, so there's floor plus. If you go to settings, load families, you have a list of families. So you may want to select all of them. I mean, if we just go ahead and select all of those families, and now we have this in our database folder, we have Revit families catalog. So that's where we can specify a file path to the family, sort of a company catalog of Revit families, and load it along with our wall plus families. Okay, so whatever families I have in my Revit families catalog, my title blocks, casework, generic models, door types, whatever you have in there, you can load straight away. So let's go ahead and load those families. I think you may have some questions. Okay, it doesn't seem like you have any so far. Right, so
AGACAD, building BIM together.
Okay, now I can see it's loading my families catalog. Okay, that's it. So now I have wall plus families in my new project. That is based on the Revit template, and it already kind of contains quite a lot of things I'm going to use throughout the project. But now it has my families loaded, casework, doors, whatever families there were in my catalog. I have them here now. You do the same with Roof Plus, except, you don't load the family, company catalog of families the second time. So you just load Roof Plus families. Same goes for Floor Plus. Floor Plus has its own families as well. So that's it pretty much. You load the families and then you do it one time, and that's it. You kind of don't have to come back to it anymore in your new project. Okay, so the other bit that's quite useful, and it's kind of part of the functionality of our framing software, is the template project. Okay, framing software is the template project. Okay, so that was our item number 3, which we already looked inside the template project. Okay, so if we go to settings drop-down menu, we have this template project location. So that's where you specify where your template project is. Again, it's in a database folder. So we're going to specify that file location, which I have already. So you can have more than one template project, and you can load data from selected template project at any time. So that's my main template project. Click on save. Okay, so already I can transfer wall types from that template project. So the wall types I have set up in there, I can transfer those. I can transfer, like Roof Plus and Floor Plus does not allow you to transfer roof types or floor types, unlike Wall Plus. You can transfer wall types, okay. But you can just go ahead and transfer standards. So from Roof Plus menu, it's exactly the same function. Transfer standards, okay, sorry, not defined. I have defined my template project in here, so I'll do it from Wall Plus menu. So we go ahead and transfer standards, and that's going to open up my template project again. So I have too many projects opened up. All right, so it's showing me this one. Okay, so let's just keep this aside. Let's just keep this aside. Okay, let's close this again. All right, so my new project based on Revit template, settings, transfer standards. So that's now opening my template project. And it's allowing me to transfer standards. So that's just a typical Revit functionality of transferring project standards. Now, in here, you can transfer various kind of things from your template project. So keeping in mind that that's where we keep all of our data, our typical roof types, floor type, our data, our typical roof types, floor types, title blocks, various kind of things, view templates. So now, right, so now let's see how many view templates we have in here. Okay, sorry, wrong button. Okay, we have none. Okay, right, back to here, transfer standards. For my template project, let's just transfer. You can also transfer browser organization. Let's just go and transfer wall types. Was that fill patterns, floor types? Was that roof types? Okay, and view templates. Just for you may as well transfer everything. Okay. Okay, so we now go on the walls, basic walls. I have my wall types transferred. We have floors. floor type. Well, there may have been just one floor type that was colored differently. But basically what it allows you is transfer those items. And already here you can, begin sort of describing your new project. Such and such. So you do that. Okay, you can close the template file. Now, if I go to, okay, so I'm able already to draw my wall types, ready to draw my wall types, okay, go to the link wall menu. Okay, I have already configuration assigned. So that's done automatically. So I assigned this configuration one type to this one particular wall type, and it's already assigned. So I can actually begin. So what I like to do is just go on full transparency. Okay, right. I can just go ahead and frame those walls. Okay, exact same wall types, exact same wall type configurations. I have framed my walls here. Now, I do have transferred view templates, and it's quite a big list of view templates. So these may well be your company standard view templates that you have already created. You can store those in a template file and then keep transferring every time you create a new project. So not just view templates, your element types, anything that you can transfer with transfer project standards in Revit. Okay, transfer projects standards. It's like exactly the same menu. Okay. Yeah. So we can also work out your title blocks as well. Okay. So that pretty much covers all four of the items. So the input which you load into your new project, along with specific families of wall, roof, and floor. So that's that. Let's now look at worksets and how you could work with linked files. Okay, so let's get rid of those frames. Go ahead, delete framing. Okay, get rid of those walls. So now, okay, so let's say you have linked models. You have third-party consultants or just consultants who supply you with architectural models, landscaping, MEP, structural, anything it would be. Okay, so that's where you're gonna use link. So that's where you're gonna use link models in Revit. Okay, so if I go to new link models, architectural. Okay, so let's say I want to link in my architectural model. So oftentimes we have structural engineers who being supplied with architectural models, and that's a good starting point. To have your elements model already, it's a very good starting point. The only thing you now are missing are your frames and configurations. So what they oftentimes do, receive the architectural model, link this model into their own current model, and use it as a sort of basis of their structural framing. So that's our architectural model. A good practice would be to when you create or when you make your project collaborative, when you enable collaborative functionality within Revit, make it a central file, and then every person working on the central file creates a local copy of that central file and then synchronizes back all the work and all the changes that he or she has done. Same goes with linked models. So you may as well link not just architecture but also MEP, landscaping, and any other sort of models. So these levels kind of irrelevant at the moment. We have a different level set up, so you can either manually sort of assign your own levels to the levels that are set up in the linked model. You may well just get rid of that in the linked model. We need to have those line elements. So what you can do, actually, you can make a copy of this architectural model and make it your own and just go in and frame in there. But we can also link those models into your own sort of container, your own main model. So when you're doing that and you want to frame those elements you have in an architectural model, you would first have to use copy monitor. Select a link. Okay, so now we have selected our architectural link. Okay, let's first maybe apply different view templates. Okay, now from this model we would just use standard copy monitor functionalities and options where we can filter out what items we want to copy. Only when you bring in information from linked model like a wall element, you then can frame that wall. So this wall is our wall number 4, type 4. If we go to wall plus. Okay, if we go to here. Okay. Select the 2 walls. We can now produce structural framing for those 2 walls only when they are brought into your current model, along with levels. I guess when you're bringing in walls are constrained to levels, so you have to bring levels as well. So a good practice would be to place your linked models into your worksets or create worksets for linked. That just gives you more flexibility when it comes to view properties. Okay, so in that case, you can not just, you can control view display settings from Revit links, but if you have worksets, which I don't have created now, okay. Now, if I go to my view templates, when I place a Revit link, also have a workset for it, I'm just able to, have a sort of more control over it in terms of visibility. I can hide it if I wanted to. Now I have left are those 2 walls. So a good practice in terms of worksets would be to let's pull this back. Workset for our linked models and linked DWGs, and these are additional sort of or your main worksets for your levels, massing, envelopes, interior, landscape, and everything else. So that's a good way to set up your worksets and begin using it as a central file, the main model that you have. Okay, so thanks everyone for attending. The recording will come out next week into our YouTube page. For those that still have questions or kind of want to know more or want to organize a demonstration, one-on-one session, feel free to contact myself or the sales department and just let us know. But like I said, the trial is there for your use, and please do use that 2 weeks of trial and just have a look. So the idea behind this session was to kind of get an idea of what a good workflow would be and how we can sort of store away your data that you keep reusing with every new project, and sort of save the time and help you along the way. So hopefully you had some sort of good insight, or maybe just had some thoughts about it. And yeah, so if you have any further questions, just let us know. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending, and keep up with the future webinars of
AGACAD, building BIM together.